The Kaitlin Armstrong trial in its beginning stages right now, opening arguments being made. The question is, did she do it? Did she have a jilted lover's triangle where she went and murdered the woman that her boyfriend had been seeing on and off again and then flee the country, changing her face cosmetically and names and everything? Very much almost something like out of a movie when you really look at this case. Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor, joining us to discuss this case. I don't know, when I go through all of this again, it's been a little while since I refreshed myself on the case. Today I did another deep dive to go back into it. I don't know what kind of leg she has to stand on in this case. Neema, what are your thoughts? Because this is such a twisted, almost Hollywood-esque type scheme that happened here.
Tony, you and I almost always agree, and that's the case here as well. I mean, people that are innocent, they don't flee the country, they don't get plastic surgery, they don't change their appearance. And, even when she was caught and she was actually going to a medical appointment, she tried to flee again. So, it's going to be a very tough case to defend. Obviously, there's ballistics evidence that implicates her. There's video surveillance of her SUV at the scene of the murder. So, obviously everyone's entitled to a legal defense and the defense lawyers are going to try to do their best, but this isn't a case that's defendable in any way, at least
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I mean, the ballistics evidence, let's talk about that a little bit because I want to get a better understanding of how solid that is, because over the last year or so, we've heard a lot of different arguments on some of the ballistics of the type of casing that is used and how some will argue it's not a super perfect science. Some will say, well, it really leads you down the right direction. In this case, what kind of ballistics evidence are they looking at?
It hasn't come out yet. I mean, some of this is obviously information that's been submitted in support of search warrants. We're going to hear it, but apparently the rounds at the scene, and there were multiple, are connected to Armstrong's firearm. Obviously, we haven't heard the experts testify. I have a prosecution slant. I believe this evidence is good evidence. The defense will always argue that it's junk science, but I think with that, I think with her, stalking her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, through an app, hacking into his text messages. I mean, clearly the motive is there. The flight is there. I mean, it's really everything you want as a prosecutor. You got your motive, you got your means, you got your opportunity, and like I said, I mean, normal people, they just don't engage in this type of behavior unless they're actually guilty.
It's true. I mean, the thing is, she doesn't have a record. There really is no past that she has of engaging, as far as we know, in any sort of nefarious behavior. So to suddenly snap one day and go and execute this woman who her boyfriend had been kind of secretly seeing on and off, it seems a little out of character. But I'm sure in most cases where murder is involved, it can be a bit out of character. But then to flee, to change your identity, is this something that you would think was planned in advance, or was this all, oh my God, I just did this. What have I seen on Dateline? How do I operate next?
I think it's more the latter. And obviously, we cover a lot of murders here on the show, and oftentimes it's the spouse or
Mhm.
the boyfriend or girlfriend or the lover. That's usually the most likely suspect. And when jurors are hearing cases, frankly, it's a lot easier to understand a case like this because you're a jealous person, and either the jurors are jealous themselves or they know of someone who is that might do something like this. When it's sort of random acts of violence, it's a little bit tougher sometimes for jurors to wrap their heads around. That's why you have the experts and the psychs and so forth that might come in and testify to that. But look, this is a tale as old as time, Tony.
Yeah.
You're jealous, and you whack the other woman. Unfortunately, in this case, it seems like that wasn't necessary because he was breaking up with her. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And the thing is, she went so far. She got to Costa Rica. She had a different name. She did the plastic surgery. Where did she go wrong? Was it that need for attention that eventually really kind of got her by going out to the clubs, by starting yoga instruction? I mean, she got a lot done in like the 41 days she was over there.
well, she really did. I mean, her sister helped. Apparently, helped her flee. Obviously using a different passport. Vehicles and so forth. But yeah, you really want to blend in. Ideally, I would never encourage anyone to murder someone, break the law, but probably better off going to a non-extradition country, someplace where the U.S. Marshals have a little bit less pull.
Hmm.
But obviously, we know, when folks like to flee, they like to go to Mexico and Central and South America. They want to go on vacation. Costa Rica is a beautiful place,
Yeah.
but obviously, they have a good relationship with the United States and the Department of Justice. So if you're going to murder someone, probably not the best place to be.
All right, put your thinking cap on for a second here, and I know you're a prosecutor, but put your defense cap on for a second, if you would. How would you defend this woman if you were in charge of doing that? Where would you take this to try and, if anything, to try and get her off on this, or sow some seed of reasonable doubt?
Yeah, I think the only possible argument here is a self-defense type argument. For her to say that it wasn't me when, it was clearly you, you got to have some sort of justification. Um, I think really that's the only possible way. Maybe a Bob Durst type defense there in Texas. There was she confronted the victim, and there was a struggle over the gun, and lo and behold, she was shot. But again, I don't know why you need to shoot someone multiple times in self defense and flee. But I think that's really the only possible way you can go if you're the defense. I don't think for them to say that it wasn't me or I didn't intend to do it, I just don't think it's going to fly. Even self defense is a stretch, but I think that's the only argument
The
Armstrong's got here.
the only thing that could run through my mind on this, and it was the first thing that I thought of today. If you're extremely fear based as a human being, and some people certainly are, could it possibly be that she was in the wrong place, wrong time? She knew how damning all of this looked towards her, and thought, "I'm screwed. If I didn't do this, but I am screwed if I stay here. So this is my best bet. If I want to have any freedom whatsoever, I have to run. I have to flee. I have to change my identity." Is that way too far of a stretch, or could it be? Sometimes fact is stranger than fiction, but I don't know about it in this case.
I mean, you could certainly make that argument, but again, when you have the ballistics, you have the vehicle, you have the stalking, there is other corroborating circumstantial evidence here. It's not like that just kind of came out of the blue. And
Yeah.
look, let's not forget, Armstrong's boyfriend was investigated, interviewed, and he was cleared pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So obviously, he would have be someone that maybe would have similar motive. So I think it would be a stretch if there wasn't this other evidence. Maybe she can go in that direction that she's just an anxious person who panicked.
Hmm.
But again, this really went so far in terms of plastic surgery and just the changing their appearance. Again, trying to flee again,
That's what. Yeah.
lying to law enforcement.
Trying to flee earlier. It was like less than a month ago. She tried to flee again. I mean, what is? I mean, is this someone who just really has lost all sense of reality? If this is what you're going to try and do, you're going to flee when you're this close to going to court, and you're under this much scrutiny. It's not like you're going to get away.
No, not at all. And, unfortunately for Armstrong and her lawyers, every jurisdiction in this country has a jury instruction that says flight, that's consciousness of guilt. That's what guilty people do. That can be used as evidence that someone knew that they were guilty, they broke the law, and that's why they tried to flee. So, real uphill battle here. I just don't see this ending anywhere but a guilty verdict.
I can't imagine what her attorneys were thinking when they got that news that she tried to flee right before the trial. That's, yeah, not a phone call you want to get.
No.
Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you want more of our interview with our guests, be sure to check out our podcast, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Just search that wherever you download podcasts and press subscribe. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel for the full video version of the interviews as well, under the same name, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Check it out, subscribe, binge, and enjoy. Thanks for watching.